remember queuing outside Game or even Blockbuster at midnight just to grab the latest and greatest release. That hype was just unreal. But these days, midnight launches in the UK have all but vanished. So today, we're going to ask the question, what happened to midnight releases? Let's talk about why they were so special here in the UK and why they eventually disappeared. So first, Saunders, let's set the scene. Midnight launches weren't necessarily about just picking up a game. They were an event. They were like a social gathering amongst, fellow nerds. I don't know how many of these events that you went to when they were on, but have you got any like special memories of going to any of those events?
This is a topic that I've been looking forward to covering for a while, and this week seems like the right week just based on some of the happenings in the gaming sphere recently. The ones that stand out, they're simple. And actually, I liken them to our now quarterly catch-ups for the big four PLEs and the WWE. It was just a way of spending time with your pals and having a bit of fun. It was going to McDonald's and grabbing something to eat and go to Tesco for snacks. And if you were lucky, you would go to Blockbuster and the guy would say, jump back in your car outside and you're still first in the queue. And if you were unlucky, you'd have to go and stand inside and wait. Even predating that you were looked after in these stores, especially for us. We talk about Blockbuster Irvine all the time. Certainly, I was there every Friday pretty much after work, and it was an event. You were known to the staff. You were looked after. There was snacks and they go. You were on a first name basis. It was the last of the real in person community when it comes to gaming. If you like, that's how I remember it.
Would you say that they were almost like hubs? Then they were less like stores when it came to those events. It was like a hub, an experience almost.
It was, and I think that comes from the fact that these stores did close and reopen. So it wasn't like you were in a retail shop at midnight. They closed and they reopened at 10:30 or whatever. So it almost became like a nighttime space, quote unquote, not literally, but figuratively. It was a different atmosphere, a different event. It was more relaxed. You weren't browsing. You just went in, you sat in the queue, you chilled, you talked to whoever came in next, and whoever came in next, and whoever came in next. And no doubt you picked up gamer tags or PSNs and went back and jumped on and played with those very same people 45 minutes later, depending on the game, of course.
I actually even remember it was GTA 5's first release, or what would have been the Xbox 360, and Tesco, our local big Tesco, when it was still 24-hour, also a thing of the past, had a DJ that actually came in and done a set for everyone, which was unheard of now. Whereas these things now, they're almost, as I kind of alluded to there, and as you're alluding to now, is that they are memories. They are memories of a forgotten era. So, like, why did these midnight releases fade away into obscurity?
There's a number of reasons, and I think there's probably 3 or 4 we'll touch on in the video and hopefully generate some conversation amongst you guys out there that are watching. There is the rise of Amazon, which may end up being a completely separate video, to be honest, and why it became such a powerhouse in the gaming sphere beyond just retail. There is, of course, you've alluded to supermarkets disappearing, 24 hours of markets disappearing after COVID. You've alluded to other reasons. There's one standout reason, and that is the rise of incomplete games being sent out on day one, and the introduction of the day one patch. The point of a midnight release was to have the game be in your house at 12:30, 1 a.m, playing the game before anybody else did, essentially. Nowadays, we're in a situation, well, when this decline first started, let's say 6-7 years ago, maybe even probably longer than that, probably with PS4, Xbox One era, with the initial digital rights management era, you were in a position where you would get home, file a disc into the drive, and then watch a 60, 70, 80 gigabyte update start. So immediately you lost a huge benefit of the midnight release. That was then obviously replaced essentially by the preload phase, where you could pre-download game files a day or two in advance, and then it would be activated by a small day one patch that provided access at midnight, which was then the easiest and quickest way to have access to a game at immediate release. And that obviously has then further led to what tends to happen now in games where it's season based, etc., that it's not midnight by midnight across the world. it was a digital picked time. Call of Duty ones tend to be that 6 p.m. for us, sort of midday Eastern time US, roughly, and the game just goes live and that's it. For me, it's all about that digital management aspect has just completely ruined that. That, of course, there's a bit of a chicken and egg story there, Ross, that you might want to touch on. What came first? Did the digital management side come first, or did the death of the UK gaming high street come before the digital management?
I mean, it's a really, really good question, isn't it? Because obviously, as you allude to, you could get those games in some cases 2 weeks early, digitally, of course, and then an update would drop and it was, a 50-50 between, is this going to take me 5 seconds or like 2 hours? And then just that scuppered it. So I think you make a really valid point there that it may just have been the case that when the Xbox One came out, these things, and the PS4, these things just started to draw back. The retail side, I think, is maybe where, if it was teetering, that it was the final nail in the coffin, and it was the sort of boogeyman that has been the sort of source for change in a lot of things in a society, both in good and bad ways. Probably COVID was the thing that just nixed that off. You see it across like supermarkets and what have you, like they're not open 24 hours now. You're going to struggle to convince these places to pay staff wages and overtime to open. And I think when you combine all those factors, yeah, you would probably still get hardcore fans that would go out and be there for those releases, but they're almost like a stunt now. It's not the norm anymore, and it is such a shame because, as you were talking about earlier on, like, they were absolutely fantastic, and it just seems like you see them less and less. But
we'd love to know, as we've talked about the Ross, if there's anybody out there that does have some long-standing midnight release traditions that I seen as part of prepping for this video. I saw people on Reddit and other places talking about going to the cinema at 7, 8 p.m. and then going for food and then going to their pick up at Blockbuster, their game. And I was like,
that's
I've even thought of that.
That's fantastic.
And I'm like, that's class. Love to know what traditions that people may or may not have had back in there, what their favourite memories were, as well as do they think that we're better off now as it is, or do we genuinely miss that? Because I'd love to know, like, we're talking about games, but you prompted this video because you saw that Argos, relatively local to you, did a midnight release for EAFC, which I genuinely don't understand because most people get early access now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the last one I saw was Smith's doing the Switch 2 early release. Mm-hmm. But even then, midnight release, but even then when it comes to the consoles, it's no longer plug and play. There is a setup period, there's download, there's create an account, there's software updates, then there's, especially with the Switch 2, there's now load the game and install it rather than just a plug in and go. So 100%. As an absolute chicken, as I say, chicken and egg story, what came first? Did digital rights management take over first, or did other factors push us down that route?
100%. I think it's definitely a conversation that I'd love to have with people in the comments on this video to hear what you guys think at home. So I guess another question to ask is, do you think they are? You've kind of alluded to it there, but we can flesh it out a bit. Do you think they are totally gone here in the UK?
Yes. And in the short, yes, I think they're gone. I think I'm trying to be diplomatic. If I go back to the good old days, Amazon went through a phase where if you pre-ordered the game, they shipped it a day early. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that you had it for day of release. So if the game is coming out on Friday, you tended to get it on the Thursday evening. Kind of meant that you could plug it, fire it into your disk drive, download any updates that were required, day one patches, and you had it at that time. Maybe for me, it's just where we are in life. We're obviously a little bit older than we used to be, and maybe it's one of the things where it's like, well, rather than taking the day off work, I'll just order it, get it delivered. When it arrives, again, we're fortunate we both work from home. When it arrives, I'll fire it in, and by the time everything installs and updates, it'll be the evening I can sit and play it. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's where we are now. And maybe that is an age thing. Maybe there'll be some people out there, again, looking for some comments in there that are the generation behind us that may see it differently, but they would have grown up with the norm being to digitally download. And as we look ahead to what's coming, I'm probably going to digitally download GTA 5. I will probably buy a physical copy as well, but I would imagine I'll just preload it and have it ready to play straight away.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something to be said for a lot of people where maybe the hype now does live on in a digital space. Like, it is less about going and meeting up with your friends in real life to do these things, and instead you sit on Twitch and you're sitting on someone's stream because the new Fortnite season pass is about to drop, or the latest game, and you're like, oh, I hope if I matchmake at the same time as them, I might get in the same game. Discord watch parties, these kinds of things. It's like a lot of things in life. Like there's maybe something to be said that the midnight release culture has potentially shifted from the streets to like desk chairs and couches, and that's maybe where we've lost a bit of the magic. I hope the GTA 6 has one, because that is one that I would absolutely be up for. I think that would be fantastic if us at TNF could meet up together and do something like that.
Here's the question though, where would we meet up? There is no game, there is no Blockbuster.
That's the question.
Argos's are now in Sainsbury's, so it'll be interesting to see if they did a 24-hour opening, how they would manage that. It'd be intriguing. I'm curious as to how that is going to go. Because that is the big one. That's probably the only one that may provide enough nostalgia for people, because the previous one was so long ago that it is a direct tie. I just think it's a lost art, and you mentioned it there with regards to the Twitch thing. Like back in the FIFA days, that was the one that I would go and get most years at midnight. I think by the time the game's doing its midnight release, you've got your EA Play Plus 10 hours early access. Your content creators have had the game for 2 weeks. You've seen everything. There's nothing new. I just think there's a lot of things that have killed it. We've certainly focused on the digital aspect of games now versus the old days, and there is a reason why the last few videos that we've made in this channel are really heading towards that old nostalgic game collection, because that's just where we are. We're just harping back to our childhoods a little bit and seeing what's out there. And we do like the physical aspect. So I'm again interested to hear for the in the comments. We have a series which should start next week where you can see the box sitting there. Although there's an N60 photos in there, but I am going to rebuild my PlayStation 2 collection, which I donated to charity a long time ago. The first episode, you will see me digging console out of my parents' loft and testing it, and whatever comes after that. But we're going to start with the game. We're going to start with the games next week. So I'm interested to know if there is any games out there that, for reasons hopefully of nostalgia, you picked up at a midnight release, maybe 25 years ago now, and are worth me picking up.
100%. The people in the comments should definitely get on that. So I guess midnight launches in the UK maybe aren't necessarily dead, but they have evolved into something that we don't necessarily recognise as a midnight launch. And it's definitely hard for us to not miss those nights out at Game or Blockbuster at midnight, the community buzz, the spirit, the energy that maybe just in 2025 is just like a sort of nostalgic reminiscence of the past rather than anything realistic that we're ever going to get back. So what about you guys at home? Did you guys ever queue up at midnight? Maybe at Game or Blockbuster back in the day? What's the most memorable launch that you went to? Let us know in the comments down below. As Saunders alluded to earlier, our series on building his PS2 collection back up from scratch is coming, and this is definitely going to involve us going to Forgotten Worlds. However, this is not somewhere that is new to us, and we quite often find ourselves in there. So if you want to go see what happened the last time we went, tap that video on the screen right now, and you will see what gems we found. And we'll see you guys in the next one.